Hi, it's Kirby Summers, and I want to welcome you to my podcast. Today is January the 5th. It's Friday, and I'm just going to go over some basic information about the Epstein document drop and additional information given to a reporter by Mark Epstein about the death of his brother, Jeffrey Epstein, alleged death. What can I say? Please take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you haven't. I upload new information all the time. I want to thank you for your help, your support, and your words of encouragement. As you all know, new documents were released commencing on Tuesday, January the 3rd. These documents are from Virginia Giuffre's 2015 lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell. I know I've told you before, but I have to keep repeating it because some people are proclaiming that, these are all inclusive about Jeffrey Epstein's so-called co-conspirators. And frankly, as I stated in my last podcast preview that I put here, and by the way, this is not a preview. This is an actual podcast that I'm uploading to my YouTube channel for you guys. Some people thought it was going to be an all-inclusive list of the perpetrators that were involved in the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking and blackmail ring. However, as I have repeatedly stated, it is documentation that was withheld from Virginia's 2015 lawsuit against Ghislaine. That said, there is some new information and there is other stuff that we can confirm. So, for example, some of the people who were named in these documents. And by the way, I also said that many of these people were named before. So among the names that show up very often, clearly are Prince Andrew. We know that it was Ghislaine Maxwell who introduced Andrew into this world. His name appears a lot. Bill Clinton's name appears a lot. Um, we can see, let's say, Ehud Barak shows up in these documents. Former Democratic Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell appears. The governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, appears. We also see Stephen Hawking. He appears on the document drop. Hawking did go to Little St. James. However, I know that I communicated with Virginia Giuffre via Twitter regarding specifically Stephen Hawking in 2015 when some of this information came out. And her response to me indicated that Stephen Hawking was not someone that she was told to quote, make happy. I think you guys know what that means, right? So I just want to once again warn you, be careful of the accounts that you're watching because there is massive disinformation. I'm not sure what it's about. Is it because people want to continue to blur the truth from us? But you have to be very careful. I have put links to all of the documents on my Patreon for free. I'm going to continue to provide free links on my Patreon. If you're a paying member, I thank you for your help, but you don't have to be a paying member, but just subscribe. You will get the free links. I'm going to keep reporting on this as I have done for 4.5 years. So here's the thing that did come out that I find rather startling, and then I'm going to just loop back and go over some other points. The issue of witchcraft was brought up, and that had not necessarily been said by any of the victims. So in the document drop, we have several things. We have depositions, we have Ghislaine's deposition. We have the deposition of some of the victims who were required to testify on behalf of Virginia. So basically to support her statements. We have the records from the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office when they were first alerted to Jeffrey Epstein's behavior, and that goes back to January of 2005. That's as long as the police were involved, and frankly, it began, I believe, January the 3rd of 2005. Um, so there's this thing. One of the mothers told a detective about her daughter's past drug abuse and also how many kids in Royal Palm Beach are involved in drugs, witchcraft, and animal sacrifice. So this is a confidential report from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. And this is to try to, this was sent between Ghislaine and someone that she hired, trying to get information from the police department, anything that could be used against Virginia to discredit her. However, this is a documented piece of information, which was also apparently in a newspaper in 1998. So it was even showed up in mainstream media. Why we haven't heard about this before? But you know what? It makes sense because we have other trafficking rings from the past that have also made allegations about sacrifice and witchcraft. I'm not going to make too much commentary about the witchcraft because clearly I'm not an expert on witchcraft or what specifically happened within the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell trafficking ring, other than to say, we have to just look at these documents and interpret them without jumping to conclusions, but it's pretty clear witchcraft is witchcraft. The other thing that was of surprise to me is Johanna Joberg. So I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It's Sjoberg. She, quote, worked for Jeffrey Epstein for a period of 5 years. She was 23 at the time that she was recruited from her college by Ghislaine Maxwell, allegedly. She is the woman who was also in Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse at the time that Prince Andrew visited New York City, where Virginia is alleged to have sat on his lap. Ghislaine brought down a puppet that looks like Andrew, and Johanna sat there with him, and he is said to have placed his hand on her breast. This is what is in the record. This victim, Johanna, was also allegedly given to Glenn and Eva Dubin. Most of you remember that Eva Dubin testified at the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, and when she was asked about specific things, she suddenly had a memory problem. Okay, we can take that. So this is the second victim that we hear from that were gifted to Glenn and Eva Dubin, allegedly. I'm going to have to keep using that word allegedly, but this information is in the documents. The documents are well over 1,000 pages at this point. They began, as I said earlier, to drop on Tuesday. Some dropped late last night. Others will continue to drop tonight and possibly into next week. So there's many, many pages. I alone cannot read every single page and report on this. So I encourage you to read these documents on your own. Leslie Wexner, by the way, the CEO of the Limited, L Brands, Victoria's Secret, so on and so forth. Well, he's named. And remember, he came out and said that he stopped talking to Epstein, that he was clutching his pearls. I knew nothing. All of these people have said they know nothing. When the police were investigating Jeffrey Epstein, it appears that who arrived in Palm Beach? Well, on May 10th, 2006, Leslie Wexner arrived in his private plane along with a team from the Limited. They arrived in Palm Beach, and the police were watching them because they wanted to see where Epstein was hiding. Apparently, Epstein went into hiding during this time, trying to avoid the police. He was aware they were onto him. The other thing that, we have to keep reminding ourselves is that the victims are targeted, okay? Uh, in the police documents that are included in this drop, we are reminded that Jeffrey Epstein hired private investigators in one specific case, and clearly we're only hearing from a very small number of people. The depositions and Virginia Giuffre's information in order to sue Ghislaine Maxwell. Uh, One victim was pushed off the road while she was trying to drive by one of these very aggressive private investigators. It is believed that she felt threatened for her life. This has been a story we have heard many times. It makes sense, okay? Um, we have to be very careful of, and just be aware that, I mean, even for me, I'm clearly feeling a little rattled right now with what's happening. This is a very reminiscent to the Franklin child abuse case, later changed to quote the Franklin quote hoax. It was not a hoax. We're reliving the same thing. These are all part of the same, I always call it a tree, and these are branches from the same tree. Okay, we know that Craig Spence was found suicided with even like a suicide note, wearing a tuxedo in a hotel. Jeffrey Epstein supposedly found dead in jail, in the cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. Speaking about Jeffrey Epstein being found dead, his brother Mark Epstein gave an interview. He was afraid to show himself to the camera. He says that he travels a lot. He does not want to be on the camera. He wants to remain as inconspicuous as possible. He too claims to be afraid for his life. He said that he had to hire two bodyguards when he had to go and try to settle the matters of his brother, who is alleged to have been found dead. He said that he believes his brother was first given a karate chop, that this is what the strangulation marks around Epstein's neck indicate to him and some professional people that he has spoken with, that it is, he said that he spoke with some military people that said that the way Epstein's neck appeared in the photographs that we have seen, he says that first he was given a karate chop and then strangled. He believes the US government has engaged in an ongoing cover-up. Basically, he told this to Tucker Carlson, but he's afraid for his life. Honestly, those comments by Mark Epstein, I tend to believe them. We will never know. Did Epstein walk out? Is he alive? Is he dead? Based on the information we can gather from the Franklin cover-up and Craig Spence, I think it's safe to surmise that perhaps he was indeed murdered. Why would anyone walk Epstein out when he has already outlived his usefulness? Think about that. There's no reason to keep Epstein alive. He can't do anything else for these people. Another person that was named is David Copperfield. I think most of you who are following this case have heard that David Copperfield, the infamous, I'm not going to say famous, I'm going to say infamous, because he has an island too. And at one time he was sued. He found himself in two civil lawsuits for similar stuff. Granted, the lawsuits apparently disappeared. But intelligence agencies, as I have written in my books, hire professional magicians because they help the intelligence agencies with new tricks, new ways to look here, don't look there. It's all with the sleight of hand. So the fact that David Copperfield was involved in this and his name is in the documents, we have seen his name before, but this just underscores the fact that he played a role in the Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I have to keep calling it a trafficking ring. What can I say? Let's see if there's anything here that I think like it's really interesting because what I've seen is people trying to protect one presidential candidate over the other. This is all inclusive, people. This is Democrats are involved, Republicans are involved. There's no one who is without fault here. Moreover, what you have to remember is there is no president that has gone after the perpetrators. Nobody, nobody, not George Bush, not Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. Nobody has gone after the perpetrators. Ghislaine Maxwell, that's it. People were thinking, oh, well, Prince Andrew is going to be arrested. No, for what? The elites get away with this. What the Epstein situation allows us is for the first time and perhaps the only time in history, we are allowed a very deep look into the inner world of the uber ultra wealthy and the very politically connected people who operate according to the rules of their own making and their own enforcement. I mean, they make the rules, okay? They change the rules. So Epstein, despite this, after all of these decades, was expendable in order to protect the elites for whom he served. Epstein was not the boss. He had a boss and or bosses, okay? Well, I can hardly wait to hear your comments. If you're going to comment to protect a politician, do it on somebody else's channel. Just don't waste my time. It's very time consuming to go over this information. I want it to be factual. I don't want people to start making assumptions. The documents are available for all of you to read independently of each other. We are only really narrowed down listening to Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit. There have been other lawsuits in the past. Many of these have been settled. Anyone who accepted money from Jeffrey Epstein's compensation fund, which, by the way, David Boies helped to quote draft. So we have David Boies working here in seemingly in tandem with the Epstein people to make sure that any lawsuit against any of the perpetrators were dropped before the victims received any money. And in this particular case, the money was very high as $5 million. That's a lot of incentive to make somebody say, you know what, I don't have to say anything else. Okay. Moreover, people are afraid for their lives. This is not a joke. This is a real thing. It's not a conspiracy. There are court documents. Read them. All right, guys. If you haven't liked the video, like it, subscribe. I'll just keep uploading information as it happens. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.